Hi. I'm going to talk about a game that I played called Tunic. I spent a lot of time playing this game before I took my little break from streaming so I can record and edit videos, and the funny part is I never actually completed this game. I am up to the final boss and oh my god, man. This is a fun little indie game with lots of action and puzzle solving. It centers around a fox who has to navigate through a violent world and complete tasks. Not a lot of people watch me play this game, but for the people who did watch me, described it as Dark Souls but with a cute fox. And I can't agree more. Looks like Link's Awakening, feels like Dark Souls. So for a game like that, how does it fare overall? I'm going to be breaking this review down into 3 parts. The aesthetics, the game elements, and the game mechanics. Each of these will have 3 subjects that I cover too, which will be given a score out of 5, as always, and an overall score out of 15. A tad bit different to my other reviews. Maths. Let's begin. So for this part of the review, thank you. Motherfucker, this gave me a heart attack. In this part of the review, I'll be talking about the world, the art style, and the aesthetics, but I'm going to let each of these points flow into each other as an overall aesthetics thing. The world in this game is absolutely beautiful. It's filled with colors and great music to go with it, which makes it an absolute treat to play. You have a lot of different places to go and navigate through, you have lots to do in these places too, and the more you do, the more you discover. Now, the world isn't necessarily a big world, but it doesn't overdo things. Within the space that it has, it fits everything in pretty much perfectly. Whether it be enemies, new buildings to explore, some sort of a MacGuffin, absolutely everything. I feel like this game could have easily made the world a lot bigger, but if it did, it would have been a horrible game. And if it was any smaller, it would feel way too cramped up and compact. There are gardens, there are forests, there are libraries, mountainous areas, battle arenas, just to name a few of these places. Everywhere you go, there is something to do or something to discover with very little restraints. And this all comes with absolutely amazing art style and art direction as well. I've said this about so many games that I've played this year. I feel like we are genuinely at a golden age for art style and art direction in video games. I don't think I've played a game this year where I've complained about this, and this is no exception. This game visually looks absolutely amazing. For a lot of it, I'll say that it looks like an acid trip. This game feels like a acid trip. I've got no clue what's going on. It feels like I'm going through an acid trip. Which is a great thing! It's a colourful world with the chibi art style, which is absolutely adorable. It is filled with lots of colour motifs as well, like the flashing red vignette showing low health, and the black-purple thing representing a loss of health. And it's supposed to put you in a flight or fight mode. To expand on that flight and fight mode thing with the purple-black colours, when you went to this area with these colours for a part of the story, oh my god, it was so stressful. The entire game, you've been avoiding those colors and trying to stay away from them at all costs. And then suddenly you're in a place where these are the only colors that you see. And the music wasn't helping in these places either. Oh, and speaking of music, the music in this game is phenomenal. It is so perfect. It's way too good. It is by far the best OST I have heard in a game this year. Like, for me, there's no competition. The only other series I know where music is this memorable is the Pokemon series. And there's a new Pokemon game coming out this year, and I'll be damned if that Pokemon game makes better music than this game. Like, I am dead serious. It is that good. No matter what anyone says about Pokemon, the one thing I will say is they always nail the music and how it creates an atmosphere wherever you go. This game does just that as well. Everywhere you go, there's a different soundtrack. Every situation you fall in, there's a different soundtrack, and they are all so good. It makes you want to go back into those places and somehow experience that situation over again, just so you can listen to the music. Like, that's how good the music was. Here's a quick top 5 on the best soundtracks in this game. Number 5, The Siege Number. Number 4, Ooze Control. Number 3, The Librarian. Number 2, The Knight. And my favorite, number 1, my favorite customer. I'm just putting this part over here because I was searching up the titles for the songs that I wanted to put in this top 5 list, and this was my reaction when I listened to my favorite song of the list, and I wanted to share that with you guys. Each of these tracks creates such an atmosphere for the situation and the place that you're in. It tells you how you need to feel. I'm not a music expert. I don't know music theory or anything. I pretend I know how to sing, but I don't. But all I know is, whoever made the music for this game, great work. Great work. So when it comes to the aesthetics of this game, I'm sure that you guys can see that I love it. In fact, I think it's perfect. All of the independent factors that make up the aesthetics are the best that they can be, and it makes the game such a treat to play. So, with absolutely no surprise, the aesthetics of this game gets a 15 out of 15. The elements that I'm going to be reviewing are going to be the enemies, the puzzles, and the difficulty of the game. I have a thing for games that are difficult to complete. This definitely falls into that category, and it does it in an amazing way. The attitude that this game basically has is, hey, I'll give you a guide for the game, but it won't make it any easier. Basically what I'm saying is, I ain't want a woman who makes my life hard. I want games that do that. The entire world is basically a maze in Tunic, and you are constantly puzzle solving through the world to complete whatever it is that you are doing. Each place that you go to has a different path that leads to different places to find new things. The way you run through these maze-like levels in itself is what makes the game difficult, because it is not straightforward. I myself personally spent a lot of time exploring every corner of the world simply because I didn't know where I was going, and my mindset was, if I go everywhere, eventually I'll end up where I need to be, right? Honestly, that's also a big reason why I'm glad that the world wasn't bigger, because otherwise it would have been a bit too much to deal with. But then again, the amount of times I got lost anyway and sacrificed myself to respawn in the previous checkpoint. Like I said before, this game was not going to make it easy. One other thing that makes the game very challenging is the fact that the enemies are constantly trying to stop you from progressing in any way. The enemies are very strong, and the ones that aren't strong just come in a lot of numbers, which is just... I also, again, had this mentality that if there are a lot of enemies in a certain direction, it's probably because they're guarding something big, right? There are enemies everywhere for people like me who go everywhere so we can eventually end up in the right place. Like I said, this game was not going to make it easy no matter what I try to do. The game is actually genius for pulling something like that, if you ask me. Or maybe I'm just dumb. At this one point, I had this one situation where I figured out the maze, but there were so many enemies, so I attempted to run through the entire thing without getting into any battles, but all the enemies ended up ambushing me. Genuinely, I appreciate that this game stuck to having a hard difficulty in every conceivable way, no matter what, whether that be through enemies or puzzles. That is why the independent factors all get 5 out of 5 again, making it another clean sweep with 15 out of 15 for the game elements. You guys are going to be so shocked. This game is not perfect. And the flaws are going to be pointed out in the mechanics of the game. Let's start with action. It's very mid. You have weapons, you also have magic / sorcery, or whatever you want to call it. You can work on making all of those better and everything, or you can just use grenades. Like, as funny as I thought it was, the fact that having enough money to buy grenades is pretty much your be-all and end-all with action, it's kind of sad. I'm kind of over here wondering right now if there's any sort of a money exploit in the game that anyone has discovered and they just use it to buy a whole lot of grenades to beat every enemy. I'm really wondering that. There are literally probably only 2 bosses that you can't defeat without a grenade. One of them are the librarian because it spends most of its time levitating in the air and not in the actual battle arena, and the other one is the air, so the final boss. Basically nothing hurts her. I have always been a slashing type of guy, and usually if I get a longsword, I'm pretty happy. I don't find any options like that in this game though, which I thought was kind of disappointing. I had to stick to the sword that I found early in the game, and basically every other weapon or ability had something to do with magic or sorcery, instead of anything physical. I'm not saying the action was bad, by the way. There was definitely a lot of great moments in action sequences, like being ambushed, the different types of enemies and the ways you have to deal with them, how one thing doesn't do it for all, so you genuinely have to learn how to use everything to be good at handling the action in this game, and so much more. But being completely dependent on sorcery and grenades doesn't really optimize the gameplay because it doesn't allow room for different playstyles. Like, by the end of the game, I would have loved to be able to do everything that the Heir was doing with her sword in that final battle. But I was just stuck slashing and doing the Doctor Strange magical thing. Not to say those aren't badass though. Another thing that I think is very mid is the story of the game and the lore of the game. Of course I love abstract games, but I don't think things should be so abstract to the point that you have zero clue on exactly what you're doing. There is a general sense of direction in this game because you do have to collect pages for a journal, which you don't really understand. It's all in a made-up language, that's why you don't understand it. Additionally, these journal pages do reveal a lot about the world and a lot about the game mechanics that I think we would have otherwise missed. But figuring out things about the world through the journal pages, in a lot of cases just left me not caring about what I found out and asking questions on things that was never in the book to begin with. There is both good and bad to these journal pages, one of the goods being it does create a lot of mystery. But then again, I'm over here thinking you're playing a puzzle game with new enemies everywhere you go. How much mystery do you really need? A big missed opportunity, I think, was the discovery of the foxes being turned into siege machines. Like, just imagine for a second, the whole siege machines and foxes scenario, if you guys know what I'm talking about. The rest of the level, you're collecting pieces for your journal and finding out exactly how he ended up being put in that position, and beating the final boss of that area to discover it somehow relates to the Heir. Tunic devs, hire me. Please, I hate my job, and I would love to consult and learn on new projects. Something that I don't think is mid though, is the gameplay. The gameplay is amazing for the most part. There's not much to complain about because everything is so smooth. You get a map, that's huge. You get fast travel, also huge. And you have a lot to do and discover. Basically, it's every detail great with no big complaints. The only thing that I find a little bit annoying is how abstract the game is altogether, and it's to a point where you understand so little of what's going on. But then again, that's what makes the game fun in itself. So with all those in check, the only place I think the game falls short is the game mechanics, where I would give it an overall score of 10 out of 15. Now, I'll be real. I have now played 3 games this year where I was absolutely blown away by how good the games were. Tunic is one of those games. I was admittedly actually kind of upset when not many people actually watched my stream for this game. In fact, relative to my subs and views, Tunic was actually the worst performing game ever on my channel. So, I definitely do think more people need to experience this game, and if not watching other people play it themselves. In fact, I like this game so much that if I add up and simplify everything, it gets a total score of 8.6 out of 10. That is literally the highest score I have ever given any game. The next closest score is being Silt with 8.5 and Stray with 8.4. Tunic is an absolutely amazing experience. Okay, that's it. If you enjoyed this video, make sure you drop a like. If you didn't, tell me in the comments why you didn't. I also have other review videos if you guys are interested in watching those. But that's it from me. Thank you everyone for watching. Take care everyone. See ya.